All right, so here's the finished product. It has been sitting for several hours, so it is no longer warm. I have lifted it out of the pan it was in, and this is the beauty of lining it with foil, because now I can simply take it out like that, set it down. All right, my favorite part. We're gonna cut it up, and I'm gonna sample it. So I'm gonna put them right there. Oh yeah. Okay, so there's one, there's a corner. Beautiful. So I'm going to share this piece with my son. See what it tastes like. Take a look at that. You see the chocolate in there. You see the pecans on top. And again, you can use Oreos on top, M&Ms, whatever. I had pecans, I wanted to use those. Let's have a bite. Oh boy. You get the vanilla, you get the chocolate, you get a little hint of cinnamon. The texture is perfect. It's not cakey, it's chewy, it's moist. These chocolate chip blondies are delicious. That's what they're called, chocolate chip blondies. And oh, I so want you to try this at home. It's super easy too. It's super easy. Let's try it. All right, so let me show you the ingredients to make the chocolate chip blondies. You're going to need 1 stick, which is equal to 1/2 cup, 1 stick of butter. It's gotta be butter, not margarine, never margarine. If it's butter, it comes in a stick like this with the words butter on it. Okay, you're also going to need light brown sugar, or this one's called golden brown sugar, 1 egg, vanilla. Now this is the usual kind of vanilla that I use, but somebody gave me as a gift this really cool vanilla, so I'm going to be using this kind, but any sort of vanilla works. This is a very vanilla centered recipe, so make it as good a vanilla as you can get. Vanilla's not inexpensive, it's not cheap, but it lasts a long time. Okay, you're also going to need flour, just regular all-purpose flour, salt, just regular salt, cinnamon. This says Vietnamese cinnamon. It doesn't matter what kind, as long as it's cinnamon. You're also going to need chocolate chips. Nestle Toll House are my favorite. You want to get real, see what that says? 100% real chocolate. If the label says chocolatey flavor or chocolate flavored chips, it's not 100% chocolate. The only way to tell is if it says 100% real chocolate on the bag. Then that's what you want. You're also going to need, now I'm going to use these pecans to sprinkle on top, but I have done this recipe before for a friend of mine for her birthday. Instead of pecans to sprinkle on top, I took Oreos and I broke them on top. And let me tell you, it was amazing. You could also use M&Ms on top to make it really pretty and colorful. It's up to you. Now, equipment wise, you're going to need an 8-inch by 8-inch pan. You can see I've already lined it with foil like I always do when I make brownies or any kind of cake in a pan like this. Now, if you don't have an 8-inch by 8-inch pan, don't use a different size, because here's the thing. 8-inch by 8-inch pans are easy to find. Walmart has them, grocery stores have them. Almost any place will have an 8 by 8 size pan. It's a very, very common size. And I will be spraying this with my non-stick spray. Oh, also, I've preheated my oven to 350, so that's going. And, all right, I'll show you how to put it all together. All right, so what I did was I took my stick of butter and I put it in this measuring cup. It's not a measuring cup to measure the butter. You don't need to measure the butter. It's 1 stick, that's it. But this is nice and deep to melt the butter in the microwave. If you use something that's shallow, okay, that isn't very tall, the butter gets everywhere. I also like to put a damp paper towel over the butter as it's melting in the refrigerator, in the microwave, because if it does splash a little bit, this holds it in. I've had it where I've melted butter in the microwave and it has splashed over, and that was a real job to get it get the microwave clean. So into the microwave it goes. I'm gonna start with 40 seconds. All right, so we'll come back when that is melted. All right, so you're gonna need a big bowl. And what's gonna go into the bowl is 1 cup of that brown sugar. You always pack brown sugar into the cup. That's how you know you did it right, if it comes out in a nice dome like that. Sometimes there are lumps in brown sugar. If you find any, you can just break them up with your fingertips is fine. So what I'm gonna add to this brown sugar is that butter that I just melted. And it took like about a minute in the microwave to get it to melt. So in goes the melted butter. I want to get that all out of there. Okay. And I'm just going to use a wooden spoon to mix that up. Again, if you see lumps, just mash them out. And I'll come back and I'll tell you what goes in there next. Okay, what goes in next is the egg, which I've already cracked into this little bowl, and the vanilla. Now, for the vanilla, for mine, I gotta shake mine up. You want 2 good teaspoons of it. Good teaspoons of it, not little dinky halfway teaspoons. You want that vanilla to go all the way to the top. There's 1, and there's 2. You don't want to shortchange yourself on vanilla ever, because it's so good. Okay, so the egg and vanilla go in here next. In they go. Break up that yolk. Okay, so I'm going to stir this up just to get it mixed in, and I'll tell you what goes in next in a moment. Okay, so you're going to need 1 cup of flour, and I'm just going to review how to measure flour. Don't scoop out flour, okay? Spoon it into the measuring cup like this. Now you might think, what difference does it make? Well, when you scoop it out of the container or out of the bag, it compacts it, and you actually end up getting more flour than you're supposed to. There's 1 cup of flour. So I'm gonna add the flour to this, along with a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and a 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon. So all these dry things go in at once. And I'm just gonna mix it with my wooden spoon until it doesn't look like there's anything dry. At this point, don't over mix it. If you over mix it, if you go crazy with the spoon, you'll end up with something tougher. It should be a little chewy, but it shouldn't be like pretzel chewy. And notice there's no electric mixer needed for this. This is all just done by spoon. Okay. Still a little bit of white in there, but that looks good to me. And we'll move on to the next thing in a second. Okay, so the last thing I'm gonna add is my chocolate chips. Now I need 2/3 of a cup of chocolate chips, but most measuring sets don't come with a 2/3 cup measuring cup. So I'm gonna use 1/3 twice, because 1/3 plus 1/3 is 2/3. So there's 1/3 right in there, and 2/3. Okay, so I'm going to add that in there. Doesn't take a lot of stirring to get that added in. There we go. And you'll notice there's no, in this recipe there has not been any baking powder or baking soda, no leavening agent. And when I first made this recipe, I thought, oh no, that must be a mistake in the recipe. But I did it anyway. I did it as is. And you know what? It was great. It was great. It was not cakey at all. So I think it actually helps not to have any leavening agent in there. So what I'm going to do next is spray my foil lined pan with cooking spray so nothing sticks. That looks pretty good. Okay. Then what I'm going to do next is I'm going to scrape all this mixture, all of this in here, make it flat, and I'm going to sprinkle it with these pecans, and I'll come back when I'm at that spot. Okay, so if you take a look at the surface of this, you can see it took me a few minutes to do this, but I laid down each pecan so it has a pretty look when it's done. Somebody gave me a big bag of pecans from either Texas or Oklahoma, and I want to send a picture of this to her to show her how I'm using them. That's why I went through the trouble of this. Like I was saying before, you could easily cover the top of this with broken up Oreos or M&Ms or something to that effect, something like that, if you don't like or want or are allergic to nuts. So this is going to go into my preheated 350 oven for about 25 to 28 minutes. So I'm going to set my timer for maybe 24 minutes and start checking it. I'll put a toothpick in and out of it, and the toothpick should have a little bit of moisture on it, okay? Because you want these to come out chewy. And people who never get chewy cookies, probably the problem is they overbake them. So I'm going to do that, and I'll show you what it looks like when they come out of the oven.